Okay. I recommend mouses, but it doesn't mean you need them. You can actually do this on touchscreen. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on an iPad. You can do it on a Chromebook. Mouses are helpful though. Okay, so if you need that sign in still, it's right there as well. So you can sign in using that link as well. Okay, so this was the SLAM video that I wanted to show earlier, but we ran out of a little bit of time. So all this SLAM video does is it kind of goes over how we make our educator login. So the way we're going to make our educator login is we're going to click that Tinkercad link that was right there. Now, since we don't have that, boom, I have it again right here in the slides. So if you click this big box, it will bring you to Tinkercad. Tinkercad is the website we'll be using today. It is a all web-based program. So you can use this on Chromebooks with kiddos as young as like 5 or 6 or as old as 18. This is a kind of slimmed down version of AutoCAD, which is what engineers use to build Teslas and airplanes and all sorts of different stuff. So if you click Educator, and then you're just going to click Sign in with Google. And you're going to use your Google account, your educator's account, to sign in. Now, one of the things that this allows you to do as an educator versus just a personal account is you can make your own classrooms. So we're going to start by doing that. So over here on the left, you'll see we have a lot of different options. The very top is going to be my profile. Then we have home, which is where I'm going to find my designs and things that I've worked on. Then we have classes, which are going to be my classes that I made. Again, I can go to designs. So that will just go straight to designs. I also have collections. So if I want to make a folder of a specific thing. So for example, maybe I'm a science teacher and I've made a bunch of different cell models and I want to have them. Like here's an animal cell, here's a human cell, here's this cell. I can have them in this folder ready to go and I can just pull them out for the students to use. Tutorials. There's a bunch of tutorials in Tinkercad. This is one thing Tinkercad is very good at, is tutorials. So if you have a question about almost anything, there are YouTube videos or there's tutorials on Tinkercad itself. We're actually going to be doing some of those tutorials today just to get the idea of how to use the tools and how to navigate the space. And then, of course, there are some challenges as well. So they come out with some different challenges, or you can make your own challenge sometimes. Be like, okay, well, for example, one of my challenges during Christmas is make a Christmas tree. I give them 30 minutes to try and make a Christmas tree as fast as they can, and the best Christmas tree wins a present. So we're going to go right now to classes, because we're going to make our own class. And up here, we're going to press Create New Class. We're going to give our class a name. I sometimes go by year. You can go by your period, whatever you want. But for this, we're going to just call it Teach in 3D Workshop. And then I'm going to select my grade level. Since I'm teaching you guys, that's going to be 18 and plus. Now, class safe mode is a really important one. This one's going to make sure that anyone under the age of 13 is not sharing their data and is not publishing to the general public. You can allow this on a trial basis if you want, or you can just say no. But I'm going to turn mine off because it's for you guys. Then you can choose your subject, of course. I'm going to go design in 3D, but there's electronics, computer, architecture, general education, language, math. You can see it's used for quite a bit. That creates my classroom. And then I have a few other options here. So here in activities, I can make an activity for students to do. I can look at the students' designs and see what they've been doing so far. I can moderate what they're doing and saying to each other, or I can just make it so they can't say anything. And I can add co-teachers. So if I have a co-teacher or a paraeducator that also needs to look at this information, I can add them into this classroom. On the bottom here, I have a quick copy share link. This link is the one I usually use to attach it to Google. You can also do it as an add-on. So Tinkercad actually has an add-on feature in Google. Now, I typically just press copy share link, and then I add it to the quick links in my Google Classroom so kids can just click it and get started. And they log in exactly how we logged in, just minus the educator. So they'll pick, personal, and then they'll click, well, I'm being honest, they'll click this because it'll send them straight to your classroom, which is a very good thing. You can also use your code right here, and you can give that to them, and they can sign in as a student with a code. But same way that we just did, and then they would just click their Google account. So to give you an idea of what this looks like, I'm going to back up a little here. And I'm going to classes. I'm going to show you one of my classes. So I am going to go to this one, and I'm going to request that we blur this for the video. I'll put that in there. But these are my students here, and I'm just going to look up a specific student from my class. So this is Jaden's designs, and he's made all sorts of things in here. Now, keep in mind, I only had him for about 4 months-ish, and we went from a basic keychain to building whole entire cities and a character that can move on its own and has hinges and an ability to move its joints and things like that. So it can show you how quickly you can learn this type of thing. If I go view in 3D, it'll give me a 3D preview of what he's made. And I can kind of rotate around it, kind of see what's going on. Or I can go to Tinker This, which is going to allow me to go into his project and make notes. So I can go into the project and I can take a look at it, see what's going on with his project. And then over here on the right, there's a note taker. I just click and drag that to the area that I want to leave him a note. If I want to get rid of this note, I press trash and it'll just get rid of it. But by leaving that note there, when he enters his project, he's going to be able to see this note, get rid of it at will, or even add something to it for me to know. So I can communicate with my student this way. I can also do collaboration. So say I want a group project for the students. I can click up here where it has the little guy and the plus, and I can do invite people to the design. So students can invite each other to the same design and work in the same space together collaboratively. So you could have them build an entire city from scratch from history. You can have them build the set to Frankenstein. You can do all sorts of different things to try and get them into the subject that you're trying to teach them. So here's just one way we can kind of tackle that. So now I'm going to back out one more time. So again, these are his designs. I can look at all my students, or I can look at them by design. So here's just designs in general. One of the projects that we do is we create a book nook. So they have to actually take a book and build the scene from scratch from start to beginning. So that's kind of what that does. Now, this is the one that I wanted to show you. So this is what I can do. And yes, the D&D is one thing I can do, but this is one that I built myself. It is the Shakespeare Globe Theater. I separated it into several different parts just so that it will print easier, because that is one thing we're going to learn about. What will print, what doesn't print. And tutorials. Okay. So we're going to be doing a lot of different things today, especially with tutorials. So we're going to be doing these first couple tutorials, but Placit's going to be our first one that we're going to be accomplishing today. So if we go back to our slides, hopefully you've all made your educator login. Does anyone need more time to make their educator login? Okay. As we're waiting for Kelly to log in, if you guys want to click on this next slide right here where it says click here for info, it's going to give you more information on Tinkercad certification, how do you link this to Google Classroom, and ready-made lessons for specific subjects. Thank you. Okay, so I just clicked on that link in the next page, and the first one it's going to bring you to is Tinkercad Classrooms. And it's going to go over much of what I just talked to you guys about. It goes over how do you create a class, how do you understand your class codes, and all of that. So everything I just talked to you guys about, making your class, is right here. So if you forget for whatever reason or you want a refresher, it's right here in this link. Now, Google Classroom, this is the part that I really like to play with a little bit. So as you can see, there is an add-on that we can add to make this Tinkercad syncing a lot easier, but it's not that hard. In fact, if I go to Tinkercad and I want to add a design to the Google Classroom, which I forgot to show you guys this. Let's go ahead and tinker this design. Say I'm ready to turn into my teacher and I just designed this piece. I'm like, okay, well, I'm ready to turn in. If I, as a teacher, made an assignment for them, say Architecture 101 or whatever, I can press Send To as a student and just go down to Google to turn in. Continue to Google Classroom. And then I would choose my period. And then I would choose my assignment and just press Attach. But since I'm a teacher, it's going to give me actions as a teacher, not a student. But as a student, I would see the assignments that are due, and I would just pick which assignment I want to attach this Tinkercad link to. And it will show up in Google Classroom for the teacher to look at and grade. So that's how this add-on works. And it will take you step by step on how to attach designs, how to set it up for your students if you want. Now, we have ready-made lessons as well, which I like to go over because I don't know about you, but as a teacher, I don't have a lot of time. So having ready-made lessons are amazing. So down here, we have a bunch of options for ready-made lessons for 3D printing, architecture, art, coding, electronics, math, physical science, all sorts of things. I wish there was more for English because I do think that this could be really well used for English. So if you are interested in just having something that you can quickly start with, this is a great way to do it. Then down here, we have more curriculum. So we have our maker spaces and things like that. But what I really want to point you toward is this one right down here, the Tinkercad certification, because this is a great way to get your students motivated because they can have a nice certification once they leave school that will help them with job performance and things like that. And it's a great thing for you too, because it's a great way to negotiate better pay if you have more certifications and different things. Okay. Any questions about the educator tools or anything you want me to go more in depth about before we start getting our hands dirty with Tinkercad? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no, and we're going to jump right in. Okay, so first things I like to do is I like to go over how the 3D printer works. So I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes to watch this video. You only have to watch the first 10.5 minutes. And it's just going to go over how does the 3D printer actually work, because that's going to play a big role in how do we model and how do we pick models for printing, because it is a system that is additive. And when we do an additive system versus a subtractive system, there are a couple things we need to be aware of. So I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes just to quickly watch that video, and then we'll move on. Good afternoon, Stephanie. We're just finishing up a video in 3 minutes, and then we're going to get started with some tutorials.
Apologies. I was trying to connect. I had to drop my dog off to take him to the vet, and I was trying to, on the way home, to at least listen on my phone, and it just wouldn't connect.
No worries. So the video that they're watching right now is just a short video on how the 3D printer actually works.
Which 3D printer do you recommend or use?
I'm going to sound a little bit like a salesman, but I love Bamboo.
Bamboo. Okay. That's, yeah, you know, my son's in architecture school, and he's like, oh, yep, that's the one. That's the one. Get that one. Right.
Yeah, no, it blows all of their printers out of the water right now. Okay. It's ridiculous. And you can get one as cheap as $250.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, this is great. This is so exciting. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then I heard you work for Boeing.
I did. Yeah.
A good friend of mine, he is, he's their attorney or
Nice.
one of the many. And then it's always like, oh, well. Okay.
Were you able to make your educator login?
Sorry for that. Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
I'm going to do that now. Thanks.
Do you have access to the slides?
I've just pulled them up. Great.
Okay. I just want to make sure you have everything you need.
I do. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, I'm assuming that most of you guys have finished that first 10.5 minutes or so. And the reason why I really wanted you guys to understand how a 3D printer works is because it kind of leads into why we choose certain models a certain way. So the way the 3D printer works, I kind of imagine it as a giant hot glue gun attached to a robotic arm. And it builds one layer at a time, going from the bottom, moving up, right? So this one, I just sliced so you can see the layers that I was talking about. So if we scroll down on this bar here, it's actually going to drop my layers down one at a time. Thank you, Stephanie. So that first layer is where it's going to stick to the plates. And if it doesn't stick, the problem with this, and we actually see this a little bit on this little boat, is that the layers can shift. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a little bit of an issue right there where like we build this first couple layers, and then if the model shifts, all the layers that come after that are also going to be shifted. So that's where we have issues with our layering process. So when we're thinking about layering something from the bottom, moving up, we want to think about where is it positioned on the ground first? Can it stick? Because if we're starting with a tiny little cone and all it's sticking is the point, then it's probably not a good model to pick, right? But if you have a nice flat surface for it to start on and then build up, it's going to work a lot better. So for instance, this guy that came in several parts, he printed flat like that. And then I put the parts in together. Now with Benchy, you can see he does have a gap right here, which when we are printing, will probably mess up the inside because it's having to span the gap with that plastic. So when we have hot glue and it's hot, it tends to fall down, right? It is wobbly, it bends, it stretches, right? Same with our plastic. It will bend, it will stretch, right? So it will try and span that area, but it's still hot. So if it can cool down fast enough, then you can span that area a lot easier. But the bigger the area, the less likely it's going to be able to go across. Now, the way that our 3D printer tries to work with this is by creating what's called support. Support are just tiny pieces of plastic that are built to hold things up or give it support until it finishes printing. Now, if I look at this dragon, for example, which is very well made and designed, and I scroll all the way up, this one has hinges, it has everything, and you can see the wings are actually built upright, and they have this flat area to build up. All the hinges, though, and everything are built into the device, into the object. So if I look closely, the arms are already in there, and it prints like that. In fact, each one of these tails has a little hinge, these tail pieces. Now, if I go back to preview, and hopefully it doesn't do that again, good, yay. And I scroll this guy real quick, I can show you how that works. So let's look at the tail in particular. And it helps to see it within the layers so that you can kind of see how it's building. So if I go all the way down, that's the first layer right there. And it's just going to make that very first layer. And then as I start to go up, you'll notice it starts to build other things. So right here, and it's kind of hard to see, but this is a gap in the tail. And in between that gap, it's actually building a hinge that goes in and around. Now, if I look at the bottom, you can kind of see there's the hinge going into the hole. And this builds entirely like this. I don't have to pop any of the parts in. I don't have to do anything like that. It builds into this because it's additive, not subtractive. I'm not taking it away. I'm adding to it. Now, when we're trying to deal with something a little more complicated, for example, let me bring up my nephew's print. So my nephew obviously doesn't understand how a 3D printer works, right? So his initial design looked like this. This is his transformer. Beautiful, right? It has a little ghost for its mouth. And if I press slice print on this one, and it has my supports on right now, it's going to want to build a lot of plastic. And you can see all these little trees. This is the support plastic to hold up these pieces because the only thing really touching the ground is this little piece right here. So it's going to want to build plastic up to hold this up and not collapse as it's printing because it takes a minute for it to cool down and solidify. So that's what support plastic is for. And you can actually rip those little pieces off once it's done, but you want to try and avoid support as much as possible. Now, when we go back to prepare, this is one that I've just done some slight changes to. So all I did was I made it so that the neck is a pin. So now he can just pin it into both sides of his object and everything is flat. Now, when I slice this one and go on preview, it's not going to need any supports because of the angle and the flatness to the ground. So one, it's not using extra plastic, but two, the design's a little bit easier for 3D printing and it's going to mean less failure in the long run. Now I'm going to show you one more sliced object here, and then we're going to actually start working with Tinkercad. So this is my last sliced object here. It's Batman. So we have Batman at 3 different scales here. And the reason why I like to show superheroes is because of their capes. Now, the cape is very thin. The 3D printer can only go down to 0.4 millimeters. That's as thin as it can get unless you switch out the nozzle, at which point your 3D printer is going to print a lot slower because it's extruding less filament, less plastic than it would have at a 0.4. So you're doubling your time by doing that. But if you want really tiny details, that's the way you do it. So here we have the original model, and it has some supports to hold it up. And it even has a little bit of support for the cape, correct? So if I start sizing this model down, the problem with that is the cape also becomes thinner. Now, I didn't think about that when I sized it down. I was just like, oh, how about if I size it down because I want it smaller? So thinking about maybe this prints large versus it might not print small. So that is another reason why we want to think of that when we're picking our models. So here you can see it's getting very thin on the cape. That's only 2 lines, which means it's only 0.8 millimeters wide right now on this medium version. And if we go to the small version, the cape is non-existent now. It will not print that cape because of the size that we just did. So you can see there's no cape on that last one. It doesn't even want to print the ears because the ears are too small. It tries to print them, but they're not going to get printed. So those are a few examples of how to print properly. And the reason why I want to do that is because you technically don't need to know how to design in order to 3D print. So if you want to jump straight into 3D printing, those are the things I recommend. 1, pick models that are going to have a nice flat surface for you to grow on. 2, think of your details, like how small is this thing going to actually get? And lastly, think about your overhangs. So if I have an object that has something sticking straight out and nothing to hold it up, it's going to want to build plastic under that to hold it in place until it has a chance to cool down. So that's the way a 3D printer works in general. Now, we're going to skip to the next page. This one's going to be our resource page. And I'm going to go over it very quickly because I really do want us to kind of jump into Tinkercad, and we are running out of time. So this is, if you want to just jump straight into printing, these websites are going to help you with that. So we have Maker World, we have Turbo Squid, we got Thingiverse. Those first three are going to be just a website to get models from. They're free models most of the time. You can download them, anyone can use them and print them. On our fourth link here, that's going to be Bamboo's actual website to buy bamboo. So you can see different ones. So like I said, someone asked for recommendations. I recommend Bamboo. They're amazing. They have so many tools involved with the actual printing, and it just makes your life a lot easier. It's a lot less of a headache. And then this guy is going to be your studio, Bamboo Studio. This allows you to slice your models and print them. Just with this little project right here, for example, where I just brought the model in and I pressed slice, and then I just press print to get it to start printing. In fact, let's go ahead and check our device and see how our print's coming. And it says it's done. So if I press the play option here, I should have a finished benchy, and I do kind of see it down there, just the very top of it. And I can press stop, and my preview's ended. Now, with this last 5 minutes, we're going to just jump straight into Tinkercad because I want us to be able to do a little bit of something in Tinkercad. So right here is our tutorial run. Now, if you want to do this with me, we can do this. We have, I believe, until 11. So with this tutorial run, we're going to do, all of these are linked. So if you have my slides, you can click on any of these and they'll bring you through the different tutorials. But again, I recommend mice. They're helpful, but you don't need to use them. And in this next page, I have a shortcut key. So if you want the shortcut keys, because I love shortcut keys and I like having shortcut keys, all the shortcut keys that I feel are necessary are right here quickly for you to grab. So if you want to know how to do the cruise, how to do snap, group, whatever else you need to do, and on the top section here, I actually set up the movements according to what kind of thing you're using. So if you're using a mouse, you use that first section. If you're using a trackpad, which I know some of you guys are with your Chromebooks, you're using that second section. And if you are touch screening it, you're just going iPad or phone, you're going to use the far right section right there on the column to help you out. Now, I'm going to back this up a little bit. And we're just going to start with place it. So it tells me I completed it. If you click it, it's going to say, hey, do you want to get this started? So I'm going to reset all my parts. And I'm going to press resume. Over here on the left, I'm going to have my instructions for my tutorial. You are correct, Miss Pratt. It does end at 10:45. So we have 3 minutes to do some tutorial stuff before I jump into sandboxing. And I'm sorry, guys, I wish I could have covered a lot more. There is so much to cover within this particular subject. So really quick, tutorial, if we click next step, it's going to tell us what to do. See the orange shape on the work plane. Find the box shape in the shapes panel on the right side of the screen. Left click and drag the box shape into the hint on the work plane. When finished, click on the work plane to deselect the box you just added. So over here on the right is all our basic shapes. All I'm going to do is click this shape, drag it over, drop it off, and then click off to deselect. I just finished that tutorial. Next, we can click and add shapes with our cruise. So cruise is this guy up here that looks like a magnet. Drag another shape from over here, and it will actually attach to surfaces. So you can see it will attach to whatever surface I drag it onto. That's what the cruise does. Very helpful when working in a 3D space. It gives you a little flash. Okay. Begin next tutorial, view it. So I can use this little box on the top here to click different areas of looking, so left, right, top, just by clicking and dragging on this little box, or I can use my mouse. So if I left click and drag on the screen, it's gonna rotate my camera. If I right click and drag. If I left click, it's gonna make a marquee, which will grab anything inside this red box at the time. And if I middle click, not roll, middle click, it's gonna pan my camera left, right, up, and down. If I roll, it's going to use my wheel to zoom in and out. So again, that wheel is also a click. And if we use it, it will let me pan the screen. And I've got 1 minute left, so I'm gonna try and do one more. Okay, move it. So in this one, they want us to rotate and spin and all that fun stuff. Let's reset this one. Thank you. And I think that's our time, unfortunately. Let me just finish this next one really quick. Okay. They just want us to drag to those areas. Boom. 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 Click off. Next. So then it has us drag up, which is just this black arrow. And there. So we ended on rotate it, and I'm going to let you guys take your break. Hopefully I see you back here for the sandbox, because with the sandbox, we're going to do a lot more of this and actually make our own designs, and hopefully a small little assignment for your students before you go. You're welcome, and thank you guys for coming. I hope to see you when you come back.